The words hit like a slap across the quiet cafe. $1 million cash, Christopher Hartwell said, his voice cutting through the rain hammering against Riverside Cafe's windows. Quit today. Leave Asheville within 48 hours. No questions. Sarah Bennett's hand froze halfway to the water pitcher. Around them, the espresso machine hissed. Recessed lights bounced off marble floors. 8 hours on her feet had left Sarah's ankles swollen and aching. But her mind had never stopped being sharp. And that was the problem. Christopher's Platinum American Express card tapped against the mahogany table like a countdown. On his tablet screen, 12 boardroom executives in tailored suits leaned forward, mouths slightly open. They'd watched the whole thing. Watched Sarah politely correct the catastrophic calculation error on his exposed quarterly report. Watched his irritation turn to something else, something like fear. Sarah set down the pitcher. Her voice came out steady, though her heart slammed against her ribs. Why does a billionaire fear a waitress who could do basic math? The tablet screen erupted. Gasps. Shocked faces. One executive's coffee cup tipped over. Christopher Hartwell didn't know he was staring at a woman who'd once managed $600 million in assets. He didn't know Trevor Walsh had destroyed her 3 years ago. And he definitely didn't know that in 72 minutes, she'd save his company from that same man. Your support means everything to this channel. Subscribe now to see how courage changes everything. Sarah walked into the kitchen. Her hands shook, just slightly, not enough for anyone else to notice. But she noticed. The adrenaline from Christopher Hartwell's offer still buzzed through her veins like bad coffee. Table 6 needs refills. Diane called from the grill station. Diane Martinez had worked the afternoon shift at Riverside Cafe for 11 years. She could read a customer's mood from how they parked their car. Right now, she was reading Sarah's face. You okay? Fine. Sarah grabbed the coffee pot. Her reflection stared back from its silver surface. Tired eyes. Hair pulled into a bun that had started coming loose 4 hours ago. Black uniform with a small coffee stain near the hem she hadn't had time to treat. This was her life now. Refills. Smiles. Tips counted in singles. She moved through the dining room with practiced efficiency. Topped off cups without being asked. Cleared plates before customers had to signal. Folded napkins into perfect triangles. Small competencies. The kind nobody noticed until they were gone. But they kept her employed. Kept the rent paid on her studio apartment in West Asheville. Kept her sister Maya's medical school tuition checks clearing every semester. Maya didn't know how close those checks came to bouncing. Sarah made sure of that. The lunch rush had finally died. Sarah wiped down table 12 for the 3rd time. Her lower back ached. Her feet screamed. The orthotic inserts she'd bought last month weren't helping anymore. She needed new ones. New ones cost $70 she didn't have. Christopher Hartwell sat at table 4, still on his phone, still tapping that platinum card, still acting like he owned every room he entered. Sarah slipped into the back office. Her locker stood in the corner, dented and scratched from decades of use. She spun the combination, 14-28-06, the day she'd signed her first trade authorization at Morgan Stanley, the day she thought she'd made it. Inside, her past waited. The diploma came first. Harvard Business School, Master of Business Administration, class of 2018. It was still in its frame. Sarah had never taken it out, never hung it up. What was the point? The cream-colored paper with its embossed seal mocked her now. $60,000 in student loans. A corner office in Boston. A future that had evaporated like steam. Beneath the diploma sat a red Montblanc pen. Meisterstuck model. She'd bought it the day she made her first $1 million trade. The weight of it in her palm had felt like victory. Now it felt like evidence. Evidence of who she used to be, who she'd never be again. Sarah touched the photo tucked into the corner of the frame. Her old office, 42nd floor. Windows overlooking Boston Harbor. Herman Miller chair. Dual monitors displaying real-time market data. That version of Sarah wore Armani suits and Louboutin heels. That version didn't worry about $70 shoe inserts. 3 years for months, 11 days. That's how long it had been since the SEC hearing. Since Trevor Walsh had walked into that federal building with his lawyer and his lies and his forged evidence. Since he'd stolen her proprietary algorithm. Since he'd destroyed every license, every credential, every connection she'd spent a decade building. The hearing had lasted 6 hours. The verdict took 12 minutes. Insider trading. Securities fraud. Professional misconduct. None of it true. All of it permanent. Sarah closed the locker. The diploma stayed inside, hidden, like everything else about her. Sarah? Diane's voice carried from the dining room. You've got a problem. Sarah walked out. Christopher Hartwell stood at the counter. Up close, he was taller than she'd realized. 6'2", maybe 6'3". His suit was Tom Ford. Charcoal gray. Probably $8,000. His watch caught the light. A Patek Philippe Nautilus. Rose gold. She'd seen those watches before. In Boston. On the wrists of men who measured their worth in quarterly earnings. But something about him seemed off. His wedding ring sat on his right hand, not his left. And when his phone lit up with a call, Sarah caught a glimpse of his wallpaper. A woman's face. Dark hair. Soft smile. The photo had that faded quality of something saved too long. Something precious. Christopher swiped it away fast. Too fast. I need to speak with you, he said. Not asked. Stated. Like Sarah's time belonged to him, because he'd decided it did. Diane raised her eyebrows from across the room. Sarah felt the weight of her friend's attention. Diane had watched her handle entitled customers for 3 years. She'd never seen Sarah's composure slip. Not once. But right now, Sarah's grip on the coffee pot tightened. Just slightly. I'm working, Sarah said. Her voice came out level. Professional. The voice she'd used in boardrooms once upon a time. Take a break. Christopher pulled out his phone. His fingers moved across the screen with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. I looked you up. Sarah Elizabeth Bennett. Harvard MBA. 2018. Morgan Stanley Boston office. Portfolio manager. $600 million in assets under management. He looked up. His eyes were sharp. Calculating. Revoked securities licenses, 2022. Insider trading allegations. Professional misconduct. You disappeared after that. Sarah's pulse thundered in her ears. Her palms went slick. 3 years of hiding. 3 years of anonymity. Gone in 30 seconds of Google searching. I don't know what you're talking about, she said. The lie tasted bitter. Don't. Christopher's voice dropped. I watched you look at my quarterly projections. You spotted the fraud in 15 seconds. Fraud my entire accounting department missed. My CFO missed. My board missed. He leaned against the counter. People don't develop that skill set serving coffee. Diane appeared at Sarah's elbow. Everything okay here? We're fine, Christopher said, not looking at her. I wasn't asking you. Diane crossed her arms. She was 52 years old, 5'3", and had raised 3 kids in Asheville on waitress wages. She didn't intimidate easy. Sarah? Sarah's throat felt tight. It's okay, Diane. But it wasn't okay. Nothing about this was okay. The bell above the door chimed. 3 customers walked in. A family with 2 young kids. Normal people. Normal problems. Sarah envied them with an intensity that made her chest hurt. Christopher's phone rang. He glanced at the screen. I have to take this. He answered in Mandarin. Fluent Mandarin. His accent was Beijing, not the softer southern dialects. He spoke for 30 seconds, then switched to English. Meet me at the Biltmore estate tomorrow. 7 p.m. The main ballroom. He paused. Yes, all of them. I don't care if sterling objects. I'm the CEO. Sterling. Sarah's blood went cold. Richard Sterling. Christopher Hartwell's CFO. She'd seen that name on the documents. Seen the signature. It had looked familiar then. Now her mind raced through memories, faces, signatures she'd seen in Boston. In meetings. On contracts. No, it couldn't be. Christopher ended the call. The family at table 2 needs menus, he said, gesturing toward the door. And the little girl wants chocolate milk. She's lactose intolerant. Her mother will ask for almond milk instead. He should grab it now. Sarah stared at him. How did you? Pay attention. Christopher headed for the door. He stopped halfway, turned back. The offer stands. $1 million. Leave Asheville. Start over somewhere else. Somewhere safe. His expression shifted. Something almost human flickered across his face. Please. Then he was gone. The Tesla pulled away from the curb. Rain streaked the windows. Sarah stood frozen. Her mind spun through calculations, patterns, connections. Richard Sterling. She pulled out her phone, typed the name into Google, added Hartwell Industries, CFO. His photo loaded. Corporate headshot, expensive suit, confident smile. But Sarah looked past all that, looked at the bone structure, the hairline, the way his left eyebrow sat slightly higher than his right. Trevor Walsh, her ex-partner, her destroyer, the man who'd stolen everything from her 3 years ago. He'd changed his name, changed his appearance slightly. But those eyes, she'd know those eyes anywhere. And he was Christopher Hartwell's CFO. Christopher Hartwell returned the next morning. Sarah was refilling the sugar dispensers when the Tesla pulled up outside. Her stomach dropped. She'd barely slept. Trevor's face had haunted her dreams. Trevor Walsh, Richard Sterling, the same man, the same liar who destroyed her career now sat as CFO of a billion-dollar company. And Christopher had no idea. The bell chimed. Christopher walked in carrying a leather portfolio. He didn't sit at a table. He walked straight to the counter, set the portfolio down, opened it. "I need you to look at something," he said. Sarah's hands tightened around the sugar dispenser. "I'm working. Please." That word again. It didn't sound right coming from him. Men like Christopher Hartwell didn't say please. They gave orders and expected compliance. He pulled out a document. Quarterly financial projections for Hartwell Industries. The pages were thick with numbers, charts, footnotes in 8-point font. He laid them out on the counter like Q's dealing cards. Then he stepped back, pulled out his phone, pretended to read emails. But Sarah saw his eyes. He was watching her, testing her. She shouldn't look. Looking meant engagement. Engagement meant exposure. But her gaze dropped to the first page anyway. Revenue recognition schedules. Q3 projections showed a 47% increase over Q2. Her brain started calculating automatically. Industry average growth for tech manufacturing was 8 to 12% quarterly. A 47% jump was possible during a major product launch or acquisition. But Hartwell Industries hadn't announced either. She flipped to the next page. Her pulse quickened. The revenue recognition pattern was wrong. Sales were being recorded in Q3 that shouldn't close until Q4 or Q1 next year. Channel stuffing. Classic fraud technique. Ship product to distributors before they ordered it. Record it as revenue. Then deal with the returns later. Sarah's eyes moved faster. The footnotes buried the truth in technical language. Projected sell-through based on historical distribution patterns. Translation. We're lying about when these sales actually happen. The numbers look good on paper. They'd fool investors. Fool the board. Probably already had. But they wouldn't fool the SEC. Not when the returns started flooding back in Q4. Not when revenue collapsed and someone started asking questions. "Your CFO is cooking your books," Sarah said quietly. She didn't look up from the documents. Q3 revenue recognition is fabricated. Christopher's phone stopped moving. "Excuse me." Sarah pointed to line 47 on page 3. This distributor deal. $18.7 million recorded as Q3 revenue. But the actual purchase orders won't be signed until November. You're recognizing revenue 4 months early. How do you? Page 7. Same pattern. $31 million in projected sales that haven't happened yet. And here, she flipped to page 12. Your CFO is using FOB shipping point accounting to inflate numbers. The products left your warehouse, so he's calling them sold. But the contracts have return clauses. When distributors send them back, your Q4 numbers will crater. Christopher stared at her. His jaw was tight. Those documents are confidential. They're also fraudulent. Sarah pushed the portfolio back toward him. Her hands were shaking. She shoved them in her apron pockets. The SEC will figure it out. Probably already has. You got maybe 6 weeks before they come asking questions. "Who the hell are you?" Christopher demanded. Sarah took a breath. "A waitress." Waitresses don't read gap footnotes like morning newspapers. He grabbed the portfolio, flipped through pages. You identified 4 separate fraud indicators in 90 seconds. That's not casual competence. That's expertise. Diane appeared from the kitchen. "Everything okay?" "Fine," Sarah said. "Not fine. Nothing about this was fine." Christopher ignored Diane entirely. His focus stayed locked on Sarah. Explain the fraud pattern. Specifically. I can't. Yes, you can. His voice dropped, not threatening, desperate. My company is about to go public. IPO scheduled for January. If there's fraud in these numbers, I need to know. Now. Sarah looked at Diane. Her friend's expression said be careful. Sarah had been careful for 3 years. Careful had kept her hidden, kept her safe. But safe meant watching Trevor destroy another company, another person, just like he'd destroyed her. Channel stuffing, Sarah said. Your CFO is shipping product to distributors without firm orders, recording it as revenue, making your growth numbers look better than they are. Sterling has been with me for 18 months. His credentials are impeccable. His credentials are fake. The words came out harder than Sarah intended. Revenue recognition fraud follows a pattern. First, aggressive accounting. Push the boundaries but stay technically legal. Then, as pressure builds, the fraud escalates. You start recognizing revenue early. Then you fabricate sales entirely. By the time anyone notices, millions are gone. Christopher set the portfolio down slowly. You sound like you've seen this before. I have. Sarah met his eyes. I manage portfolios worth more than your quarterly revenue. I analyzed financial statements from 100 companies. The fraud always looks the same. Different names. Same pattern. Past tense. Managed. I don't do that anymore. Why not? Sarah's throat tightened. Because someone like your CFO destroyed my career. Stole my work. Framed me for crimes I didn't commit. And when I tried to fight back, the system protected him and erased me. The cafe went quiet. Diane had stopped moving. 2 customers at table 7 were pretending not to listen. Christopher's expression shifted. The arrogance faded. Something else took its place. Something that looked almost like understanding. The insider trading allegations. They were false. Doesn't matter if they were false. They're on record. Permanent. Sarah pulled her hands from her pockets, forced them to stop shaking. Your CFO is committing securities fraud. The pattern in these documents matches classic pre-IPO manipulation. He's inflating your value to maximize his stock options. When the IPO happens, he'll cash out. 6 months later, when revenue collapses and the stock crashes, he'll be gone. You'll be left holding the lawsuits. That's a serious accusation. It's a factual assessment. Sarah grabbed a dishcloth, started wiping down the counter. Needed something to do with her hands. Check his previous employment. Check his credentials. Actually verify them. Don't just trust the background check firm he probably paid off. And look at his financial interests. Shell companies. Offshore accounts. The money always leaves a trail. Christopher pulled out his phone. Started typing. What's your phone number? No. I need to be able to reach you. You know where I work. Sarah walked toward the kitchen. And Mr. Hartwell? Fire your CFO. Today. Before he destroys everything you built. The door opened. Sarah was pouring coffee for table 3 when she heard the voice. Smooth. Confident. Familiar in a way that made her skin crawl. Christopher, good to see you. Sarah's hand jerked. Coffee splashed over the rim of the cup. She set the pot down fast. Turned. Trevor Walsh stood in the doorway. Except he wasn't Trevor anymore. His hair was darker. Styled differently. He'd grown a beard. Lost maybe 15 pounds. But the eyes were the same. Cold. Calculating. The eyes of a man who saw people as resources to exploit. He wore a gray suit. Hermes tie. Italian leather shoes that probably cost more than Sarah made in a month. Richard Sterling, CFO of Hartwell Industries. The new identity fit him like expensive clothing. Comfortable, well-tailored, completely false. Christopher stood. Sterling, what are you doing here? Heard you were asking questions about the Q3 projections. Trevor's voice was casual, unconcerned, but his eyes scanned the cafe, landed on Sarah, stopped. Recognition flashed across his face. Fast, then gone, replaced by a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Sarah couldn't breathe. Her chest felt tight. Her pulse hammered in her ears. 3 years. She'd had 3 years of anonymity, of safety, of rebuilding a life so small and quiet that no one noticed her. All of it gone in the span of a heartbeat. Trevor walked toward the counter. Each step deliberate, measured. He stopped 3 feet from Sarah, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Something expensive. European. Coffee, he said. Black. Sarah's hands wouldn't move. Her body had frozen. Fight or flight, and she couldn't do either. Sarah? Diane's voice came from somewhere far away. You okay? Trevor's smile widened. Sarah. Pretty name. He pulled out his wallet, set a $100 bill on the counter. Keep the change. Christopher was watching. Sarah could feel his attention even without looking. She grabbed a mug, poured coffee. Her hand shook. Coffee sloshed in a cup. She set it down in front of Trevor. Stepped back. Trevor picked up the mug, took a sip. His eyes never left Sarah's face. Then he leaned forward, just slightly. His voice dropped to a whisper only she could hear. The NDA still stands. One word and I'll finish destroying you. Sarah's blood went cold. The non-disclosure agreement she'd signed 3 years ago. Part of Trevor's settlement to make her disappear. She'd signed it because her lawyer said fighting would bankrupt her. She'd signed it because she'd already lost everything and couldn't afford to lose more. Trevor straightened, turned to Christopher. Shall we discuss those projections? Perhaps somewhere more private. Christopher looked at Sarah, then at Trevor. His expression was unreadable. My car. 5 minutes. Trevor nodded, set down the mug, walked out. Sarah stood frozen, her vision blurred. The cafe tilted. She grabbed the counter to stay upright. Diane's hand landed on her shoulder. Sarah, what just happened? Sarah couldn't answer, couldn't speak, couldn't do anything except watch through the window as Trevor Walsh, Richard Sterling, climbed into Christopher Hartwell's Tesla. Christopher sat in his car. The leather seat was cold. Rain drummed on the roof. He pulled out his phone, opened a secure browser, started typing. Sarah Elizabeth Bennett, Harvard Business School, Morgan Stanley. The search results loaded. News articles, court documents, SEC filings. He read them all, every word. The allegations were serious. Insider trading, securities fraud, unauthorized trades using client information. The evidence looked damning. Email trails, trade records, witness testimony. But Christopher had spent 20 years building companies, 20 years learning to read between lines. And something about this case felt wrong. He clicked deeper, found the SEC hearing transcript. Sarah's defense was simple. She hadn't sent those emails, hadn't made those trades. Her business partner had access to her accounts, her passwords, her digital signature. He'd done it, framed her, stolen her algorithm and her reputation in one move. The defense had failed. The SEC didn't care about partnership drama. They cared about violations. And the violations were there, attached to Sarah's credentials. Christopher opened another tab, searched for Sarah's business partner, the man who'd testified against her, the man who'd provided the evidence that destroyed her career. Trevor Walsh. The photo loaded. Christopher's chest tightened. Younger, different hair, no beard. But the bone structure was identical. He opened a third tab, searched Richard Sterling, his current CFO. The man he'd hired 18 months ago based on impeccable credentials and glowing references. The photos matched. Christopher's hands tightened on his phone. Richard Sterling was Trevor Walsh. The man who destroyed Sarah Bennett now worked for him, had access to his company, his financial systems, his IPO plans. And Sarah had recognized him immediately. That's why she'd gone pale, why her hands had shaken, why she'd looked like she'd seen a ghost. Because she had. Christopher opened his contacts, found his head of security, started typing a message, then stopped. If Sterling was who Sarah said he was, he'd have contingencies, disappearing evidence, escape routes. Warning him would trigger those defenses. Christopher needed proof first, real proof, the kind that would hold up in court. He needed Sarah. Christopher walked back into the cafe. Sarah was wiping down tables. Her movements were mechanical, automatic. She didn't look up. He caught her wrist, not rough, but firm enough to stop her movement. We need to talk, he said quietly. Sarah tried to pull away. I have nothing to say. Richard Sterling is Trevor Walsh. Christopher kept his voice low. The cafe had other customers, other ears. You recognize him. Sarah's eyes went wide, then narrowed. Let go. I looked you up, really looked. The SEC case, the allegations, the partner who testified against you. Christopher's grip softened, but didn't release. It was him. He framed you. That's not. Sarah's voice cracked. I can't talk about this. Why not? NDA, non-disclosure agreement. I signed it to make the case go away. Christopher stepped closer. His cologne mixed with the smell of coffee grounds and her exhaustion. Cedar and bergamot. Expensive and clean. Everything about him smelled like money and power. Things Sarah used to have. Things she lost. He's committing fraud right now, Christopher said. Using my company. If you help me stop him, I'll help you. Lawyers. Resources. Whatever it takes to clear your name. Sarah finally looked at him. Really looked. His expression wasn't arrogant anymore. Wasn't testing. It was vulnerable. Almost desperate. Why do you care? She asked. Christopher released her wrist. Because my wife made me promise. Before she died, she made me promise to help the woman wronged by Trevor Walsh. He paused. I've been looking for you for 2 years, and you've been serving me coffee. Sarah's shift ended at 6. She hung up her apron in the back office. Her hands were still shaking. Christopher's words kept replaying in her mind. My wife made me promise. Before she died, she made me promise to help the woman wronged by Trevor Walsh. Diane knocked on the door. My dad wants to talk to you. What? Just come on. Diane led her to the corner booth. An older man sat there. Gray hair, weathered hands. He wore a Hartwell Industries baseball cap, faded from years of washing. Frank Martinez, the man said. He didn't stand, didn't offer his hand, just studied Sarah with sharp eyes. Worked at Hartwell Industries for 32 years. Factory floor, machine operator. Retired in 2019. Sarah slid into the booth. Okay, you're the one Christopher's been looking for, Frank said. The woman wronged by Trevor Walsh. Sarah's breath caught. How do you? Catherine Hartwell was my supervisor's daughter. Before she married Christopher. Before she got sick. Frank folded his hands on the table. Calluses covered his knuckles. Working man's hands. She read about your case in the papers. The allegations. She didn't believe them. So the whole thing smelled wrong. She didn't know me. No, but she knew men like Trevor Walsh. Frank's expression hardened. Catherine spent 5 years investigating financial fraud for the Massachusetts Attorney General. She could spot a liar from across a courtroom. And she said Trevor Walsh was lying. Sarah's throat tightened. Why would she care? Because Catherine believed in justice. Real justice, not the kind rich people buy. Frank pulled out his phone, scrolled through photos, stopped on one, showed Sarah, a woman with dark hair and kind eyes. She wore a simple dress, hospital bracelet on her wrist. She was smiling despite the 4 line in her arm. Christopher sat beside her. His hand held hers. The photo captured something private, something sacred. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, Frank said quietly. Diagnosed 2 years ago. She fought for 18 months. Near the end, she made Christopher promise things. Important things. What things? Find the woman Trevor Walsh destroyed. Help her. Give her resources to fight back. Clear her name. Frank put his phone away. Catherine made him promise on their wedding anniversary, 3 days before she died. Sarah felt tears building. She blinked them back. The $1 million. Clumsy as hell. But Christopher's not good with emotions. Never has been. Frank smiled slightly. He thought money would keep you safe. Keep you away from Trevor until he could figure out how to help. Instead, he just made you suspicious. Trevor works for him. Did Catherine know that? No. Trevor showed up 6 months after Catherine died. New identity. Fake credentials. Christopher was grieving. Distracted. He didn't catch the warning signs. Frank leaned forward. But you did. The minute you saw those financial documents. That's why Christopher needs you. I can't help him. I signed an NDA. If I violate it, Trevor will sue me into the ground. NDAs don't protect criminals, Frank said. And Trevor Walsh is a criminal. Catherine knew it. I know it. Now, you need to prove it. Diane appeared with coffee. Set it down in front of Sarah. Dad's right. Catherine talked about your case all the time. She wanted to help. This is how. Sarah wrapped her hands around the mug. The warmth seeped into her palms. Catherine Hartwell had believed her. A stranger, a woman who'd never met her, had believed her innocence when everyone else had seen only guilt. What do I do? Sarah asked. Frank smiled. You do what Catherine would have done. You fight back. The police arrived during breakfast rush. 2 officers. Asheville PD. They walked in like they owned the place. Hands on their belts. Eyes scanning the room. Sarah was refilling coffee at table 9. She looked up. Her stomach dropped. Sarah Bennett, the first officer called. He was young, maybe 30. His name tag said Morrison. Every customer turned. Conversation stopped. The cafe went silent except for the espresso machine's hiss. Yes. Sarah's voice came out too quiet. We need to ask you some questions about allegations of corporate espionage and NDA violations. Sarah's legs went weak. The coffee pot nearly slipped from her grip. What? The second officer stepped forward. Older, gray at his temples. Richard Sterling of Hartwell Industries filed complaint. Says you've been stalking him, accessing confidential documents without authorization, threatening him with exposure of trade secrets. I didn't. We can do this here or at the station, Morrison said. Your choice. Sarah set down the coffee pot. Her hands trembled. Every eye in the cafe watched her. Customers she'd served for 3 years. Regulars who knew her name. They were all staring, all judging. Diane appeared at her side. She hasn't done anything wrong. Ma'am, please step back, Morrison said. No. Sarah's worked here for 3 years. She's not a criminal. That's not your decision. Morrison pulled out handcuffs. Ms. Bennett, please turn around. Wait. Sarah's voice cracked. I'll answer your questions. Just please. Not the handcuffs. Not in front of everyone. The older officer studied her. Something softened in his expression. Fine. But you're coming with us. Now. Sarah followed them outside. The morning air was cold. Rain had left puddles on the sidewalk. The patrol car sat at the curb. Blue and white. Official. Damning. At the station, they put her in an interview room. Gray walls. Metal table. 2 chairs. A camera in the corner blinking red. Morrison laid out documents. Printed emails. Security footage. Bank records. Richard Sterling says you approached him at Riverside Cafe. Demanded access to confidential financial projections. Threatened to expose alleged fraud if he didn't comply. He came to me, not the other way around. These emails say otherwise. Morrison pushed a printout across the table. Sarah's email address at the top. Messages detailing threats. Demands for money. Corporate secrets. I didn't send those. I don't even have that email anymore. It was deactivated 3 years ago. Someone used it yesterday. The older officer, his name tag said Chin, leaned back. Sent 14 emails to Hartwell Industries executives. All from your account. All containing proprietary information. Sarah's blood went cold. Trevor forged them. He has access to my old credentials. He used them to frame me before. He's doing it again. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. Sarah's voice rose. Richard Sterling is Trevor Walsh. He changed his identity. He's the one who framed me for insider trading 3 years ago. He's doing it again because I recognized him. Morrison and Chin exchanged glances. Neither looked convinced. We're going to need you to stay in Asheville, Chin said. Don't leave town. Don't contact anyone at Hartwell Industries. Don't approach Richard Sterling. Understood? Sarah nodded. Her vision blurred. Trevor had won. Again, he'd planted evidence. Forged emails. Used her past against her. And the police believed him. Because powerful men were always believed. Sarah returned to the cafe. Empty-handed. Humiliated. Diane met her at the door. What happened? Trevor planted evidence. Forged emails. Made it look like I'm stalking him. Sarah's voice was hollow. The police believe him. Of course they do. Diane's jaw tightened. Rich men always win. Sarah grabbed her apron. Tied it on. Needed to work. Needed to move. Needed something normal in a world spinning out of control. The lunch crowd arrived. Sarah moved through tables on autopilot, took orders, delivered food, smiled when expected. Inside, she was drowning. Then Trevor walked in. He wore a different suit today. Navy blue, silk tie. He looked relaxed, confident, victorious. He sat at the counter. Same spot as before. Coffee, he said. Black. Sarah's hands clenched. She wanted to refuse, wanted to tell him to leave. But refusing would mean admitting defeat. So she poured his coffee, set it down hard enough that liquid sloshed over the rim. Trevor smiled, pulled out his phone, started typing. He was making her wait, making her watch. Power play. Classic Trevor. Sarah turned away, started wiping down the counter. Her mind raced. She needed evidence. Real evidence. Something concrete that proved Trevor was lying. But what? Everything he'd planted pointed to her guilt. Trevor took a sip of coffee, made a face. Tastes bitter today. That's how you ordered it, Sarah said. Black. Still bitter. He pushed the cup away slightly, went back to his phone. Sarah grabbed the dishcloth, moved to wipe near his cup. That's when she saw it. A fine residue around the rim. Crystalline, almost invisible against the white ceramic. Her brain cataloged it automatically. Years of managing healthcare investment portfolios had taught her to recognize pharmaceutical compounds. This one looked familiar. She leaned closer, pretended to wipe the counter. The residue had a faint blue tint, water-soluble, slow-acting. Her mind flipped through mental files. Pharmaceutical databases she'd memorized analyzing drug companies. Digoxin, or something similar. Cardiac glycoside, used to treat heart conditions. But in high doses, fatal, caused arrhythmia, heart attack, death that looked natural, especially in high-stress executives. Sarah's blood went cold. She looked at Trevor. He was still on his phone, oblivious, or pretending to be. Then Christopher walked in. He looked tired, stressed. His tie was loose, dark circles under his eyes. He headed straight for Trevor. We need to talk about Q4 projections, Christopher said. Trevor stood, picked up his coffee cup, took another sip, then offered it to Christopher. Want some? I barely touched it. Time slowed. Sarah saw Christopher's hand reach for the cup, saw the residue on the rim, saw Trevor's slight smile. 12 seconds. That's all she had. 12 seconds to decide. Expose herself and save Christopher, or stay silent and watch Trevor kill him. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what's right despite it. Sarah moved, fast, knocked the cup from Christopher's hand. It shattered on the floor. Coffee splashed across marble tile. What the hell? Christopher stared at her. Don't drink that. Sarah grabbed napkins, crouched down, started collecting the broken pieces. Her hands shook. She needed evidence. Physical evidence. It's just coffee, Trevor said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp, dangerous. It's poison. Sarah pulled out her red Mont Blanc pen from her apron pocket. The pen she'd kept for 3 years. The pen that connected her to her old life. She used it to mark the largest piece of broken ceramic, marked where the residue was thickest. Cardiac glycoside, probably digoxin, enough to trigger fatal arrhythmia within hours. Christopher's face went white. You're insane. No, she's lying. Trevor's mask slipped, just for a second. She's desperate, trying to frame me. Sarah stood, held the marked ceramic piece carefully. Test it. Have a lab test this residue. You'll find cardiac medication, concentrated, in a coffee cup that supposedly only had coffee. This is harassment, Trevor said. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police. Good. Call them. Sarah's voice was steady now, clear. Tell them to bring forensics. Tell them to test for pharmaceutical compounds. Tell them to check your fingerprints on this cup. She looked at Christopher. And tell them to check your medical records. See if you've had any unexplained heart symptoms lately. Chest pain, irregular heartbeat, dizziness. Christopher's expression changed. Recognition dawned. Last week, during the board meeting, I thought it was stress. It wasn't stress. Sarah set the ceramic piece on the counter, away from everyone, preserving evidence. It was poisoning, slow, methodical, designed to look like natural causes. Trevor's hand tightened on his phone. You can't prove anything. Yes, Sarah said. I can. The ambulance arrived within minutes. Paramedics rushed Christopher to Mission Hospital. Sarah rode with them, held the marked ceramic piece in a plastic bag Diane had provided. Evidence. Proof. Justice. Christopher's heart rate was erratic. The paramedics worked fast. For line, oxygen, monitors, beeping urgent patterns. Sarah sat in the corner, out of the way. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. At the hospital, they took Christopher to intensive care, ran tests, blood work, toxicology screening. Sarah waited in the hallway. Police arrived, different officers this time. Detectives, they took her statement, took the ceramic piece, took everything seriously because Christopher Hartwell was a billionaire and billionaires got justice. 4 hours later, a doctor emerged. Mr. Hartwell is stable. The toxicology screen confirmed digoxin poisoning, significant levels. Another dose would have been fatal. Sarah exhaled, felt tears building, blinked them back. The detective, a woman named Torres, touched her arm. You saved his life. We're bringing Sterling in for questioning now. Sarah nodded, couldn't speak. The adrenaline was fading, leaving her hollow. They let her see Christopher an hour later. He was in a private room. Machines beeped steadily. For lines ran to his arm. He looked smaller somehow, vulnerable, human. You saved my life, he said quietly. Sarah sat in the chair beside his bed. You would have done the same. I don't know. Maybe. Christopher's voice was rough, tired. My father was a machinist. Worked at a tool and die shop in Detroit. 3 jobs to put me through MIT. I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment with 4 siblings. We ate ramen and government cheese. Sarah stayed quiet. Let him talk. I became exactly what I hated. Rich, entitled, dismissive of people who served me. Christopher looked at her. Really looked. You had my life once. Corner office. Power. Respect. And you lost it. Yes. What did losing it teach you? Sarah considered. That wealth isn't money. It's dignity. It's having people believe you when you tell the truth. It's being allowed to exist without justifying your worth every single day. She paused. I had your life. Losing it taught me what actually matters. You have my life now, you almost did. Maybe losing it will teach you the same thing. Christopher's eyes were wet. He nodded. Maybe it will. Diane appeared in the doorway. She carried a small recording device. Digital. Professional grade. I need to show you something, she said. Sarah stood, followed Diane into the hallway. What is this? I've been documenting workplace harassment for 2 years. Started when that investor grabbed me during lunch service. Management did nothing, so I started recording. Diane held up the device. Every shift, every customer interaction, every conversation. Sarah's heart raced. You recorded Trevor? Both times he came in, both conversations. Diane pressed play. Trevor's voice filled the hallway. The NDA still stands. 1 word and I'll finish destroying you. Then Christopher's voice. Sterling has been with me for 18 months. His credentials are impeccable. Sarah's response. His credentials are fake. Revenue recognition fraud follows a pattern. The recording continued. Every detail, every accusation, every threat. This proves you were telling the truth, Diane said. About the fraud, about Trevor threatening you, about everything. Sarah hugged her friend. Tight. Why didn't you tell me you were recording? Because you would have told me to stop, to protect myself. Diane smiled. But sometimes protecting others is more important than protecting yourself. You taught me that. Trevor moved fast. 3 days after the poisoning incident, he called an emergency board meeting. Sarah heard about it from Diane, who heard it from her father, who still had friends at Hartwell Industries. The meeting was scheduled for Friday afternoon. Executive boardroom. All 12 board members required to attend. Sarah's phone rang at 6:47 a.m. Friday morning. Unknown number. She answered anyway. Sarah Bennett? A woman's voice. Professional. Cold. Yes. This is Janet Morrison, HR Director at Hartwell Industries. Your employment at Riverside Cafe has been terminated effective immediately. The cafe is a subsidiary operation of Hartwell Industries. We're exercising our right to terminate without cause. Your final paycheck will be mailed. Sarah's chest tightened. What? Why? Company policy prohibits discussing personnel decisions. Have a good day. Click. Sarah stared at her phone. Fired. After 3 years. After saving Christopher's life. After everything. Her phone rang again. Different number. She answered. Ms. Bennett, this is Detective Torres. We need you to come to the station. New evidence has emerged in the Sterling case. Sarah's stomach dropped. What evidence? We'll discuss it when you arrive. Can you be here in 30 minutes? Yes. Sarah's voice came out hollow. At the police station, Torres led her to the same interview room. Gray walls, metal table, camera blinking red. But this time, a federal agent sat in the corner. Dark suit, FBI badge clipped his belt. Torres laid out documents, emails, security footage, bank statements. Richard Sterling provided evidence that you've been conducting industrial espionage for the past 18 months. Corporate espionage against Hartwell Industries. Sarah's vision blurred. That's impossible. I'm a waitress. These emails suggest otherwise. Torres pushed printouts across the table. Sarah's old email address. Messages to competitor companies. Offers to sell trade secrets. Proprietary financial data attached. Dates going back months. You sent 73 emails containing confidential Hartwell Industries information to 6 different competing firms. I didn't send those. Trevor forged them. Mr. Sterling has security footage. Torres clicked a laptop. The screen showed Sarah inside Hartwell Industries headquarters, walking through hallways, entering offices, photographing documents. The timestamp said 3 weeks ago, but Sarah had never been to Hartwell Industries headquarters. Not once in 3 years. That's not me, Sarah said. Her voice shook. Look at the footage closely. That woman looks like me, but it's not me. Different height, different build. Facial recognition software says otherwise. 94% match. The FBI agent leaned forward. We also have witness testimony. 3 Hartwell Industries employees willing to testify they saw you on premises multiple times. Unauthorized access. After hours. They're lying. Trevor paid them to lie. That's a serious accusation, the agent said. His name tag read Wilson. Mr. Sterling has cooperated fully with our investigation. He's provided bank records, phone logs, security credentials. Everything checks out. Meanwhile, you have a documented history of securities fraud. I was framed for that too. Torres closed her laptop. Ms. Bennett, you're not under arrest. Yet. But we strongly advise you to retain legal counsel. The evidence against you is substantial. Corporate espionage carries a 20-year federal sentence. Sarah stood. Her legs shook. Am I free to go? For now. Sarah walked out of the station. The morning sun was too bright. The world felt tilted. Wrong. Trevor had done it again. Fabricated evidence. Paid witnesses. Used her past to destroy her present. Her phone buzzed. Text message from a number she didn't recognize. Emergency board meeting at Hartwell Industries. 2 p.m. today. Sterling is presenting evidence against you. Thought you should know. Frank. Sarah read the message 3 times. Trevor was going to the board. Going to destroy her publicly. Going to make sure she couldn't fight back. She called Christopher. Voicemail. Called again. Voicemail. Sent a text. Trevor is framing me. I need your help. No response. Sarah walked to her apartment. Climbed 3 flights of stairs. Unlocked her door. Sat on the edge of her bed. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She'd been fired. Accused of federal crimes. Abandoned by the one person who knew the truth. 3 years of careful rebuilding. Gone in 72 hours. Trevor had won. Again, Sarah didn't eat. Couldn't eat. Her stomach was a knot of anxiety and rage. She sat on her couch, stared at her phone, waited for Christopher to call back, to text, to do something. Nothing. The board meeting was happening right now. 2 p.m. She imagined Trevor standing in that boardroom, his expensive suit, his confident smile, laying out evidence, emails, footage, witness testimony, painting Sarah as a criminal, a spy, a threat. And Christopher was sitting there, listening, believing him. Sarah's chest hurt, physical pain, like something was breaking inside her. She'd trusted Christopher. She'd saved his life. She'd exposed herself, risked everything, to protect him from Trevor's poison. And he'd abandoned her, just like everyone else had abandoned her 3 years ago. Partners, colleagues, friends. They'd all disappeared when the allegations hit, when the SEC had revoked her licenses, when her name became toxic. Sarah grabbed her phone, typed out a message. "I thought you were different. I was wrong." She almost sent it, finger hovering over the button, then deleted it. What was the point? Christopher had made his choice. Her phone buzzed. Text from Diane. "Don't give up. We're working on something." Sarah typed back. "There's nothing to work on. Trevor won. He always wins." "No, he doesn't. Trust me." Sarah set her phone down. Diane meant well, but she didn't understand. She didn't know how powerful men like Trevor operated, how they controlled narratives, bought witnesses, fabricated evidence. The system protected them. Always had, always would. Another text. This time from an unknown number. "Meeting at Frank's house. 6 p.m. tonight. Come, please." Sarah stared at the message. Part of her wanted to ignore it, wanted to pack a bag and leave Asheville, start over somewhere else. Again, change your name, disappear. But another part, the part that had survived SEC hearings and job loss and 3 years of poverty. That part was angry, furious, tired of running. Trevor had taken everything from her once. She'd let him because fighting seemed impossible. But now he was doing it again, and Christopher was letting him. Sarah stood, walked to her closet, pulled out the blazer she hadn't worn in 3 years, navy blue, and tailor, still in the dry cleaning bag. She'd kept it for some reason. Nostalgia, maybe, or hope that someday she'd need it again. She tried it on. It still fit, shoulders tight, but wearable. The fabric felt foreign against her skin, professional, powerful, like armor. Sarah looked at herself in the mirror. The waitress uniform was gone. The woman staring back looked like someone who'd once managed millions, someone who'd once commanded boardrooms, someone who wasn't finished fighting. Frank's house was small, one-story ranch, peeling paint, chain link fence around a yard that needed mowing. But inside it was warm, lived in. Photographs covered every wall. Family, grandchildren, 32 years of memories. Sarah knocked. Frank opened the door immediately. "Come, everyone's here." Sarah stepped inside. Diane sat at the kitchen table. Next to her was a younger woman, mid-20s, dark hair, sharp eyes behind glasses. She looked up. "You must be Sarah," the woman said. "I'm Maya, your sister." Sarah's breath caught. "Maya, what are you doing here?" "Diane called me, told me what was happening." Maya stood, hugged Sarah. "I'm sorry I couldn't come sooner. Medical school finals. You shouldn't be involved in this. It's too dangerous." "Too late. I'm already involved." Maya opened her laptop. "Forensic accounting is my specialty. I've been analyzing Trevor Walsh's financial records for the past 72 hours. And I found something." Sarah sat, her heart hammered. "What?" "Shell companies. 12 of them, all registered in the Cayman Islands, all funneling money from Hartwell Industries into offshore accounts Trevor controls. We're talking $47 million over 18 months. How did you access his records?" "I didn't. Not directly. But Trevor got sloppy. He used his personal email for some of the transactions. That email was part of the public record from your SEC case 3 years ago. I cross-referenced the addresses, found the transfers, tracked them. Frank set down a file folder, and I contacted every retired Hartwell Industries worker I know, asked about Richard Sterling. Turns out, 3 people recognized him, not as Sterling, as Trevor Walsh. They'd worked with him years ago on a consulting project, before he changed his identity." Diane pulled out her recording device. "And I have this. Every conversation Trevor had at the cafe, including the one where he threatened you, where he admitted the NDA was still in effect. That proves he knew who you were, that he recognized you." Sarah's throat tightened. "This is All circumstantial. It won't hold up in court. Actually, it will. A new voice. Male. Sarah turned. Christopher Hartwell stood in the doorway. He wore jeans and a Georgetown sweatshirt. Dark circles under his eyes. He looked exhausted. What are you doing here? Sarah's voice came out colder than she intended. Working. Christopher stepped inside. I've spent the past 3 days with the FBI Fraud Division, building a case against Trevor. Real evidence. The kind that holds up in federal court. Sarah stood. You didn't call me back. I couldn't. FBI protocol. They wanted zero contact between us while they built the case. They thought Trevor was monitoring communications. Christopher pulled out a USB drive. But I have everything now, including this. What is it? Your red pen. The one you used to mark the poison coffee cup. FBI forensics analyzed it. Found your DNA. But they also found something else. Microscopic ink traces. From documents you handled 3 years ago. Documents that match Trevor's stolen algorithm. Character by character. Sarah's heart raced. The pen proves I created the algorithm. Yes, Trevor stole your work. Your pen proves it. The timestamps on the ink traces prove when you handled those original documents. Before Trevor ever filed his patents. Before your SEC hearing. Christopher held up a second USB drive. And this is security footage from Biltmore Estate. From 2 weeks ago. Shows Trevor meeting with a known corporate espionage broker. Using his real name. Trevor Walsh. Not Richard Sterling. How did you get Biltmore security footage? Catherine volunteered there before she died. Made friends with the head of security. He owed her a favor. When I explained the situation, he pulled the archives. Sarah's eyes blurred. Tears threatened. She blinked them back. Why didn't you defend me at the board meeting? I did. I told them everything. Showed them preliminary evidence. They're voting Monday morning whether to terminate Trevor's employment pending FBI investigation. Christopher stepped closer. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you sooner, but I needed ironclad proof. Trevor's covered his tracks too well for anything less. Maya opened her laptop, turned it toward the group. The shell companies all trace back to one holding company, Paradise Ventures, LLC, registered in the Cayman Islands. Trevor's the sole shareholder. How did you confirm that? Christopher asked. SEC public filings. Cross-referenced with leaked offshore banking documents from the Paradise Papers. Trevor tried to hide his ownership through 3 layers of subsidiaries. But money leaves trails. Always. Frank laid out photographs. Old photos. Yellowed with age. This is from 2016. Company holiday party at Hartwell Industries. Trevor Walsh was consulting for us on a factory automation project. These photos show him with 5 employees. All 5 are willing to testify. They remember him. That Richard Sterling is the same person. Diane pressed play on her recording device. Trevor's voice filled the room. The NDA still stands. 1 word and I'll finish destroying you. Then Christopher's voice. Sterling has been with me for 18 months. Sarah's voice. His credentials are fake. More recordings. Conversations about fraud. About poisoning. About Trevor's threats. Every word documented. Timestamped. Admissible. Christopher added his evidence. FBI has been investigating Trevor for 6 months. Long before I knew who he really was. They suspected him of securities fraud at his previous company. But they couldn't prove it. He disappeared before they could build a case. Changed his identity. Resurfaced as Richard Sterling. Why didn't the FBI warn you? Sarah asked. They did. Sort of. They reached out 3 months ago. Asked about my CFO's background. I thought it was routine. Didn't realize they were investigating him specifically. When I told them about the poisoning attempt, they moved fast. Put surveillance on Trevor. Monitored his communications. That's how they found the Biltmore footage. Sarah felt something loosening in her chest. Hope. Dangerous. Fragile. But real. This is enough to arrest him? More than enough. FBI is executing a warrant Monday morning. Before the board vote. They'll seize his computers. His financial records. His phones. Everything. Trevor will run. He's done it before. Not this time. FBI has him under surveillance. 24-hour watch. The minute he tries to leave Asheville, they'll arrest him. Diane squeezed Sarah's hand. We're going to stop him. All of us. Together. Maya closed her laptop. I've got the financial forensics. Frank's got the witness testimony. Diane's got the recordings. Christopher's got the FBI evidence. And Sarah, she looked at her sister. You've got the truth. Your pen proves it. Your testimony proves it. Trevor can't lie his way out of this. Frank stood, poured coffee into 6 mugs, passed them around. Monday morning. Hartwell Industries emergency shareholder meeting. Biltmore Estate, Grand Ballroom. Trevor thinks he's won. Thinks he's untouchable. Christopher raised his mug. Let's prove him wrong. Everyone raised their mugs, clinked them together. A promise. A pact. Sarah drank her coffee. It was bitter, strong, perfect. Monday morning arrived cold and clear. Sarah stood in her apartment, stared at herself in the mirror. The navy blazer fit better than she remembered. The pencil skirt she'd kept in the back of her closet still zipped. Her heels were scuffed but polished. She looked like a professional again, like someone who belonged in boardrooms, someone who commanded respect. Sarah grabbed her bag. Inside, copies of every document Maya had compiled. Diane's recordings burned onto a CD. Character references from Riverside Cafe customers. And her red Montblanc pen. The pen that proved everything. Her phone buzzed. Christopher. Cars outside. Ready? Sarah took a breath. Looked at herself one more time. The woman in the mirror wasn't broken. Wasn't defeated. She'd survived SEC hearings. Survived poverty. Survived 3 years of invisibility. She'd survived Trevor Walsh once before. She'd do it again. It still fits, Sarah whispered to her reflection. She'd survived everything else. She walked out, locked her apartment door, descended 3 flights of stairs. Christopher's Tesla waited at the curb. He stood beside it, opened the passenger door when he saw her. You look ready, he said. I am. Sarah slid into the car. The leather seat was soft, expensive, everything she'd lost 3 years ago. But this time felt different. This time she wasn't alone. The Tesla pulled away, headed toward Biltmore Estate, toward Trevor, toward justice, toward everything Sarah had been denied for 3 years. The emergency shareholder meeting would begin in 43 minutes. Trevor thought he'd won. He was about to learn otherwise. The Biltmore Estate ballroom was filled with power. 12 board members sat around a mahogany table that probably cost more than Sarah had earned in 3 years. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked mountains and gardens. Old money and new money mixed in tailored suits and expensive watches. Trevor stood at the head of the table, confident, prepared. A laptop sat open in front of him. Presentation slides ready. Sarah walked in. Every head turned. Whispers rippled through the room. What's she doing here? One board member asked. This is a closed meeting, another said. Trevor's smile didn't falter, but his eyes went cold. Sarah Bennett, the woman I filed charges against for corporate espionage. Someone call security. Wait. Sarah's voice cut through the murmurs. She set her bag on the table, pulled out folders, documents, evidence. I have information the board needs to hear. About Richard Sterling, about fraud, about everything. The board chairman, an older man with white hair and sharp eyes, leaned forward. Ms. Bennett, this is highly irregular. So is embezzlement. Sarah opened the first folder. Her hands are steady. 3 years of hiding. 3 years of fear. All of it burned away by righteous anger. Richard Sterling has stolen $47 million from Hartwell Industries over 18 months. He's fabricated quarterly projections to inflate company value before the IPO. And he tried to murder Christopher Hartwell with slow-acting cardiac poison. The room erupted. Voices overlapped. Accusations flew. Trevor's smile vanished. This is slander. She's a convicted fraud trying to frame me because I exposed her corporate espionage. I was framed 3 years ago. Sarah's voice stayed level. Calm. By you. When you were still using your real name. Trevor Walsh. Silence dropped like a hammer. Sarah pulled out Maya's financial analysis. These are forensic accounting records. Shell companies in the Cayman Islands. 12 of them. all funneling Hartwell Industries money into offshore accounts controlled by Richard Sterling, also known as Trevor Walsh. She laid out Diane's recordings, audio evidence of Sterling threatening me, admitting he knew who I was, referencing the NDA from my previous case. She placed the toxicology report on the table. Lab analysis of cardiac poison found in Christopher Hartwell's coffee, administered by Richard Sterling. Hospital records confirm Christopher was treated for digoxin poisoning. Trevor's jaw tightened. She's fabricating evidence. She's desperate. Look at her history. SEC violations. Insider trading. She's a proven liar. No. Sarah met his eyes. I'm a proven survivor, and you're a proven fraud. The boardroom doors opened. Christopher walked in. Behind him came 5 people in dark suits, FBI badges on their belts, SEC credentials, federal prosecutors. Richard Sterling, Christopher said quietly, also known as Trevor Walsh. The FBI has a warrant for your arrest. Securities fraud, attempted murder, identity fraud. The list is extensive. Trevor stood. His chair scraped against marble floors. This is a setup. Christopher is protecting his girlfriend. This whole thing is orchestrated. Actually, one of the FBI agents stepped forward. We've been investigating you for 8 months. Since before you met Ms. Bennett. The evidence is overwhelming. Sarah pulled out her red Montblanc pen. Set it on the table. This pen proves I created the algorithm you stole 3 years ago. FBI forensics found microscopic ink traces from documents I handled before you filed your patents, before you destroyed my career. Trevor's face went pale. That's impossible. It's science. The FBI agent held up an evidence bag. We also have security footage of you meeting with known corporate espionage brokers, using your real name, Trevor Walsh, not Richard Sterling. Trevor looked around the room, at the board members staring at him with horror, at Christopher standing with arms crossed, at Sarah holding evidence of his crimes. His mask cracked, just for a second. Fear flashed across his face. I want my lawyer, he said. The FBI agent pulled out handcuffs. Trevor Walsh, you're under arrest for securities fraud, wire fraud, identity theft, and attempted murder. Trevor's hands shook. He tried to pull away. You can't prove any of this. Actually, we can. The SEC investigator opened a laptop. Numbers filled the screen. Forensic accounting shows you embezzled exactly $4,847,392.18 from Hartwell Industries. That figure includes wire transfer fees, currency conversion costs, and offshore banking charges. We traced every dollar. Another agent laid out bank statements. Paradise Ventures, LLC, your shell company, registered in the Cayman Islands with you as sole shareholder. You thought 3 layers of subsidiaries would hide your ownership. They didn't. Maya's evidence, Frank's testimony, Diane's recordings, Christopher's FBI cooperation. Every piece stacked together like a prosecution's dream. Trevor's attorney arrived. Expensive suit, leather briefcase. He whispered urgently in Trevor's ear. Trevor's face went from pale to gray. The FBI agent continued reading rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Trevor's platinum cufflinks caught the chandelier light. Sarah recognized them. She'd seen the price tag once. $8,000. Bought with stolen money. Bought with her stolen algorithm. Bought with lives he destroyed. $4,847,392.18. The SEC investigator repeated. Plus damages. Plus penalties. The total restitution you owe exceeds $12 million. The board chairman stood. His face was red, furious. Sterling, Walsh, whatever your name is, you're terminated immediately. Security will escort you from the premises after the FBI finishes processing your arrest. Trevor tried one last move, turned to the board. You're making a mistake. Sarah Bennett is manipulating all of you. Check her background. SEC violations. She's a fraud. No. Christopher stepped forward. His voice was quiet, but it carried weight. She's a person who saved my life, who exposed your crimes, who survived everything you did to destroy her. He turned to the board. Sarah Bennett was framed 3 years ago. The evidence is conclusive. Trevor Walsh stole her proprietary trading algorithm, forged documents, paid witnesses, destroyed her career to cover his theft. The FBI agent clicked the handcuffs shut, metal against Trevor's wrists. The sound echoed in the silent ballroom. Trevor's attorney spoke. "My client will be pleading not guilty. We'll fight these charges. Good luck with that." The FBI agent picked up the evidence folders. Dozens of documents, hundreds of pages, years of fraud documented in exhaustive detail. The evidence is airtight. Federal prosecutors have a 94% conviction rate on cases with this much documentation. Trevor was let out. His expensive shoes clicked against marble. His platinum cufflinks glinted. His mask of confidence was gone, replaced by the face of a man who knew he'd lost. The boardroom doors closed. Silence settled. Christopher turned to the board. "Before we continue, I need to say something." He looked at Sarah. "Sarah Bennett has more financial genius in her notepad than my entire board combined. She spotted fraud my CFO, my accountants, and my auditors all missed. She recognized revenue manipulation patterns in 90 seconds. She identified cardiac poisoning from coffee cup residue. She saved my life and my company." The board members shifted, uncomfortable, uncertain. "I was spectacularly wrong about her," Christopher continued. "I judged her by her current job instead of her actual capabilities. I offered her money to leave town instead of asking why a Harvard MBA was serving coffee. I made every mistake powerful people make when they stop seeing the people who serve them." Sarah's throat tightened. She didn't trust her voice. "Ms. Bennett," the board chairman said slowly, "your credentials are remarkable, and your actions today demonstrate exceptional integrity. On behalf of Hartwell Industries, I apologize for everything you've endured." Sarah nodded. Couldn't speak yet. Christopher pulled out a folder, set it on the table in front of Sarah. Job offer. Chief Strategy Officer. $850,000 annual salary. Full benefits. Stock options. Company car. Corner office. He paused. "And a formal apology, in writing, signed by me and every board member in this room." Sarah opened the folder. The contract was real, detailed, legal. Everything she'd lost 3 years ago returned. Not the same position, not the same company, but the same level of respect, the same acknowledgement of her worth. "I don't know what to say," Sarah whispered. "Say yes." Christopher smiled. "We need you. The IPO is in 6 weeks. I don't trust anyone else to verify the financials are clean, to rebuild investor confidence, to prove Hartwell Industries is worth believing in." Sarah looked at the contract, at the salary figure, at the title that would restore her professional identity, at the office that would give her back her view. She picked up her red Montblanc pen, the pen that had proven everything, the pen that had saved her. She signed. The legal settlements took 3 months to finalize. Sarah's attorney, paid for by Hartwell Industries, negotiated aggressively. Final terms: $4.2 million in restitution. Every dollar Trevor had stolen using her algorithm, plus interest, plus damages for 3 years of lost income, destroyed reputation, and emotional suffering. Her SEC licenses were restored. Every violation expunged from her record. The insider trading allegations officially marked as fraudulent. Her name cleared in every database that mattered. Trevor Walsh's trial lasted 6 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. Jury deliberation took 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Federal sentencing guidelines were clear. Securities fraud, identity theft, attempted murder. The charges stacked like building blocks. 12 years in federal prison. No parole eligibility for 8 years. Restitution orders totaling $18 million. Every asset seized. Every account frozen. Every piece of his stolen life stripped away. Justice. Real justice. The kind Sarah had stopped believing in 3 years ago. The kind that finally, impossibly arrived. 6 months later, Sarah stood at her office window. 42nd floor. Corner office with views of downtown Asheville. Below Riverside Cafe sign was visible. Small. Familiar. A lifetime away. Her old waitress uniform hung in a frame on the wall. Black polyester. Coffee-stained apron. Name tag that said Sarah. A reminder of where she'd been, what she'd survived. Her desk held 3 monitors. Market data streaming in real time. Hartwell Industries stock price was up 34% since the IPO. Investor confidence restored. Revenue projections honest. Books clean. A knock on her door. "Come in," Sarah called. Christopher walked in carrying 2 cups. Thursday coffee delivery. He set one on her desk. Smiled. "Ordered a Mandarin just to watch you smile?" Sarah did smile. Christopher had started learning Mandarin 3 months ago. His pronunciation was terrible, but he tried. Every Thursday. Same time. Same joke. "The Q3 numbers look good," Sarah said. "Revenue growth is sustainable this time. No fraud. No manipulation. Just actual sales." Boring but honest. Christopher sat in the chair across from her desk. Catherine would have liked you. She believed in people who fought back, who refused to stay down. "I wish I'd met her. She'd have been proud of both of us." Christopher sipped his coffee. The Sarah Bennett Scholarship Fund helped its 19th displaced professional last week. Diane graduated top of her class. Started her new accounting job Monday. Sarah's chest swelled with warmth. The scholarship fund, her idea, Christopher's money, helped people like her. People destroyed by fraud. People who needed second chances. "Frank says Diane's already caught 2 expense report violations," Sarah said. "She's got a sharp eye. Learn from the best." They sat in comfortable silence, drinking coffee, watching the city below. Sarah's life had rebuilt itself piece by piece. Job, reputation, dignity, purpose. Her phone buzzed. Text from Maya. "Passed my forensic accounting certification. You're buying dinner." Sarah typed back. "Deal. Proud of you." Everything had changed, and somehow, impossibly, everything had healed. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday. Sarah found it in her office mailbox. Plain manila. No return address. But the handwriting on the front made her stomach drop. Her mother's handwriting. Distinctive. Slanted left. The same handwriting from birthday cards that stopped coming when Sarah was 17. 17 years of silence. 17 years of absence. No calls during college. No congratulations for her Harvard graduation. No support during the SEC hearing. Nothing. Sarah set the envelope on her desk. Stared at it. Her name written in her mother's hand felt wrong. Invasive. Like a ghost reaching across time. She didn't open it. Couldn't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. What could it say? "I'm sorry. I was wrong. I want back in your life now that you're successful again." Words couldn't fix 17 years. Couldn't erase the abandonment. Couldn't rebuild trust that had shattered when Sarah needed it most. The envelope sat there. Unopened. Unanswered. Maybe someday Sarah would be ready. Maybe someday curiosity would outweigh anger. Maybe someday forgiveness would feel possible. But not today. Today, the envelope was just another ghost. Another piece of unfinished business. Another story waiting to be told. Sarah put it in her desk drawer. Closed it. Turned back to her work. Some wounds healed slowly. Some took time she wasn't ready to give yet. Thursday afternoon, Sarah visited Riverside Cafe. Not as an employee, as a guest. Diane managed the place now. Promoted after her accounting degree. The cafe was busier, cleaner, thriving under new ownership. Sarah sat at table 4, Christopher's old table. Ordered coffee. Watched the new waitress, a young woman named Emma, maybe 23, navigate the lunch rush. An executive in an expensive suit sat at table 7. Emma refilled his water glass. Her hand slipped. Water splashed across his sleeve, soaked his silk tie. The executive's face went red. "Are you kidding me? This is our money." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry. I'll pay for dry cleaning." "Oh." Sarah stood, walked over, placed her business card on the table in front of the executive. "Accidents happen to the best servers. Call me if you need dry cleaning costs covered." She smiled. "Or if you're looking for financial advice. I'm usually pretty good at both." The executive looked at the card. At Sarah. Recognition flickered. "You're Sarah Bennett, Hartwell Industries Chief Strategy Officer." "I am. I was also a waitress here for 3 years. Best education I ever received." Sarah looked at Emma. Competence matters. But so does dignity. Powerful people respect both. The executive's anger faded. He nodded. I apologize. The water's fine. No harm done. Sarah returned to her table, sipped her coffee. Eleanor had been right all along. Dignity, delivered with competence, changed everything. Power didn't come from position. It came from character. And character survived anything. Even Trevor Walsh. Even 3 years of serving coffee. Even abandonment and betrayal and public disgrace. Character endured. Character rebuilt. Character won. Sarah finished her coffee, left a generous tip, walked out into afternoon sunshine. Her Tesla was parked at the curb. Her office waited on the 42nd floor. Her life stretched ahead, full of possibility. She'd survived the worst. She'd fought back. She'd won. And somewhere in a federal prison, Trevor Walsh had 12 years to regret underestimating a waitress who knew how to do math. Thank you for watching Sarah's story. If justice and dignity moved you, subscribe for 3 weekly stories of triumph over power. Hit that notification bell so you never miss when ordinary courage defeats extraordinary arrogance. Your support means everything. See you in the next story.